Shalom, my name is Dr. Noreen Green, Artistic Director of the Los Angeles Jewish Symphony. We are here to celebrate the life of Phil Blazer. For this celebration, we are bringing together members of the community who loved Phil for his leadership and vision. I had the good fortune to work with Phil for decades, collaborating on many projects, including several concerts at the Greek Theater and many interview programs. His generosity knew no bounds. He provided us with office space on and off for about 10 years. I loved schmoozing with Phil. You never knew what topic would be discussed, hanging out with Phil in the office, but I assure you, it was always interesting, and we always laughed. His dry sense of humor was ever present. We are fortunate to have with us the incomparable Craig Taubman, who is hosting us in this beautiful space, his Pico Union project, one of the most historic landmarks of Jewish LA. Craig has turned Pico Union project into a beacon of light and hope. I am honored to call Craig friend, Craig Taubman.
Phil Blazer, legendary Phil Blazer, dear friend Phil Blazer. In 2013, he came to visit the Pico Union Project. I think he was one of the first, second, third people to visit. And before he could even really look around, he said, I'm gonna put this in a calendar for Ralph's calendar. We're gonna do a Ralph's calendar. And I was like, of course he is. That was Phil. He was a dreamer and he was a doer. He was a remarkable man. And whenever you were in his comfort, whenever you were in his hands, you were well taken care of. Phil and family, may you and your legacy live on forever. Bi'ado af kidruchi. Bi'ado af kidruchi. Beitishan ve'ahira ve'imruchi geviati Adonai li ve'lo ira ve'imruchi geviati Adonai li ve'lo ira. My soul I give to you. My spirit in your care. Draw me near, I shall not fear. Hold me in your hand. Draw me near, I shall not fear. We are safely in your hands.
His accomplishments within the world of media, they're unique from the standpoint of his belief that the Jewish community should have every media opportunity that every other community has.
I hosted a jazz program on KVFM, the local FM station in the San Fernando Valley. That's how I got into radio. That station was owned by Jerry Lewis. I mean, every time I walked forward or backward, it was something Jewish. It was mystical.
That was the impetus for him to be able to then ask for time to do this Jewish radio hour.
The show that we worked together on, Israel Today, for so many years, it was a 1-hour show. Phil was handling the English part, I was handling the Hebrew part. It started here in Los Angeles, but slowly went to like 40-some cities. And it had a great audience, not only Jewish audience, but general audience.
When I got started working with Phil, his show was called The Phil Blazer Show. He'd been doing it for over 10 years at that point, in 1989 when I started. We did a show every week, and we were always looking for new, interesting topics in the Jewish community to cover. We probably did, from the time I started until recently, some in the neighborhood of 1,500 television programs.
At that moment in time, I realized the next step for me is a full-fledged television network, Jewish Life Television.
He always made sure that regardless of the political side that someone was on, that there was no excuse for there to be anti-Semitism or prejudice of any kind.
I played in the Van Nuys High School baseball. My dad had an offer one day from the coach. Can my dad host the team for a practice? My father was called over by another coach from a different high school, and I could hear the guy screaming at my dad, "You have to leave the field." And my dad said, "Why?" He says, "Because you're a dirty Jew." And I was standing next to my dad. I never forgot it. After that moment, I was ready to go. My first entree into the field of activism came when Otto Miller, the chairman of the board of Standard Oil, said that the United States is too pro-Israel. I went on television and announced, "It's time to rip up your credit card. Send them in to me and I'll take it to Otto Miller." My first activism was on the Walker Cronkite CBS Evening News.
Join me for my regular CBS News report on the big news here on Channel 5.
Not bad, not shabby. Thousands of credit cards cut in all shapes and forms, Jewish stars cut in the middle of the card.
"25 or 30 members of a ragtag Nazi party in Chicago want to parade through Skokie."
When he went to Skokie to fight the Nazis as they were marching in some of the larger survivor communities in the United States, he was doing it before organizations, before other prominent individuals were doing it.
Skokie was a turning point for me. One of the great reactions I was able to cause was getting the survivors a platform to speak.
We are good Americans. We are concerned about what's happening in this country. And I can tell all of you that on July 9th at the Nazis' march in Marquette Park, hundreds of Californians will be here in Chicago.
When I came back from Skokie, some survivors told me that, "Why don't they teach us in the school about the Holocaust? There's no regulation, why not?" Richard Katz's Phil Blazer bill made it a regulation for school systems in California to teach the Holocaust, period. Eventually, other communities passed the bill. States have voted to make it mandatory to teach the Holocaust.
In the mid-'80s, there was a devastating famine in Africa. It was affecting Ethiopia and Sudan. The Ethiopian Jewish community was caught in the midst of that. Not only were they suffering the famine, but they were suffering from prejudice and discrimination.
There was about 15,000 Jews that were brought to Israel via Sudan. What happened was the operation ceased.
And hundreds of Jews were left behind in Sudan, languishing, dying of starvation. My father single-handedly really created an opportunity for those Jews to be saved.
I went to Washington basically to beg the United States to rescue the Jews that were left, the 500. I was asked to write a letter. The letter was taken to all the senators. In 35 hours, it never leaked. Every senator signed the document. Everyone. Guess who called? The Vice President of the United States. And what did George Bush say on the phone? "Phil," he said, "in 45 minutes, 500 black Jews will be landing in Israel."
This is a man who found his center and his passion in his people And he did everything he could. He found so many avenues to express that and to share it.
Phil is one of the only individuals that I know that made his entire life about Jews, Israel, and important causes.
It wasn't me. It was me and friends. God granted me an opportunity to speak out. We have a job, and the job is helping the non-Jewish people and simultaneously helping the Jewish people help the non-Jewish people. It's wonderful.
Sam Glazer is a genius of Jewish music. His compositions are sung internationally. Phil was one of the original supporters of Sam's vision. Sam has released 30 albums of Jewish music and travels to an average of 50 cities a year. He recently published his first book, The Joy of Judaism. Before he was performing for audiences around the world, he was collaborating with JLTV, establishing a unique blend of artistry and musical spirit. Sam Glazer.
Hi, friends. I'm so honored that Phil's son, Rabbi Mark Blazer, asked me to be part of this event. Just before he left the earth, Phil recorded an emotional retrospective of his life, a stunning highlight of his incredible accomplishments. Seeing all of these achievements summarized in one 7-minute video is transformative. One man with dozens of world-altering accomplishments. Any human would be blessed to merit realizing even one. One thing missing from the video was mention of Phil's deep connection with Jewish music. He cheered on and mentored countless artists of all shapes and sizes. He was one of the first people I went to with new recordings, and he always kept me in rotation on his radio show. I started touring the Jewish world in the early 90s, and Phil was shooting my local shows from the beginning. JLTV was ubiquitous at all the big events in town, covering the marches, Independence Day celebrations, and community concerts. For us young folk coming up in the Jewish world, finding a mentor like Phil was a one-in-a-million discovery. He loved the arts, he loved Jewish music from rock to klezmer to cantorial, and he never hesitated to express how much he appreciated what I was doing in my own career. I'll just mention a few things for which I am forever grateful. I produced the American Jewish Song Festival from 1992 to the year 2000, an annual songwriting competition and concert series, and Phil helped me publicize and was there to shoot every year. In 2003, he co-sponsored one of the most exciting nights in my life when the LA Jewish Symphony performed an entire evening of my music at the Alex Theater with an 80-voice children's choir and adult choir and my band under the baton of incredible conductor Noreen Green. In 2006, upon the release of my Sony JMG Rocking Hanukkah Review album, Phil created a Sam Glazer's Rocking Hanukkah Review special for Jewish Life Television. It's still playing to this day, and I'm ever grateful that he helped get my Hanukkah music out to the masses. At the end of his life, Phil greenlighted a special called The Music of Our People, which was a half-hour weekly show which featured Jewish music from around the world, and it was an honor to host that and be part of that as well. So it was extremely painful when he passed, and it made me realize that you don't know how much somebody means to you until they're gone, especially when they were a selfless mentor helping you realize your dreams. Phil Blazer was such a mentor. He was my friend and was instrumental in helping me bring my life's mission to fruition. Thank you, Phil. May your awesome neshama have a powerful aliyah. This song comes from my A Day in the Life album. It's called Oseh Shalom, a song of peace. It was one of Phil's favorites. Spreading the feeling all over the earth, waiting for the day when brothers and sisters walk hand in hand and no one feels afraid. With all of our hearts we call to you, knowing you hear somehow. Like never before, we need you here right now. Jose Shalom, Imromav, Huyase Shalom. Israel, V'Meru, Amen. Turn to the people who share your life and let your love shine through. Make sure to mention from time to time how much they mean to you. We're holding the future in our hands. We can be the light. As long as we stand as one, it could be so bright. Ose Shalom, Bimromav, Huyase Shalom. Ose Shalom, Bimromav, Huyase Shalom, Aleinu, Ve'al Kol Israel, Israel,
When I think of Phil Blazer, I think of the word mensch. He was such a wonderful, righteous, good, man of truth, man of love. And he put all this effort into creating a Jewish network, this vision that he had. And it was very difficult from the first. It was, he never had enough money to do what he needed to do. He'd ask for favors from everybody, but he never gave up. And I was privileged to see this tremendous effort that he made in the last decades of his life to bring this thing forth. And now we have, it's in 50 states, and it's passed on to a group of people who deeply appreciate what he did and want to spread the wisdom of this culture and the humor of this culture and the loving kindness of this culture to all of the world. And it's a tremendous work, and every day I'm part of it now, and every day I think of Phil, and I express my gratitude to him. I always say, thanks, Phil. Great job, kid.
Stephen Paul, and it's an honor now to be a part of JLTV. It's incredible what Phil has accomplished and how important it is. And, you know, John Voight and myself, we both feel connected to this network, connected to Phil, want to carry on his legacy, and hopefully accomplish many of the things that he's dreamed of that were not accomplished as of yet. And we will pick up the mantle and get it done. We've already started on 2 television series, one called Friends of Chabad with Levi and Chaim Kunin, and now we're doing Friends of Israel with the Evangelicals, and we have Fowder on the network, and we have Prisoners of War, and there's many, many more things to come. Stay tuned, and we love you, Phil.
Hazan Mike Stein is a one-of-a-kind talent. He blends together musical genres like no one else in the Jewish community, often performing with his family, the Rolling Steins. For this celebration, he is joined by his son Justin, one of those amazing voices in the next generation. With a career beginning on Broadway, Hazan Stein has become a leader in bringing the sounds of the African Jewish communities to the entire world. On several occasions, the Steins have been featured voices on JLTV, and as a great friend of Phil's, they bonded over their shared commitment to the Jews of Africa. Hazan Mike and Justin Stein.
What I admire more than just about anything in the world is a person who lives their life according to Torah values. And that was Phil Blazer. Every day in our prayers we say, Al Hatzadikim v'al Chasidim v'al Ziknei Amcha Beit Yisrael. To all of those who are righteous and kind and the elders of Israel. We give we bless those people, and he was such a blessing. You know, one of the things, when I came to LA from Washington, D.C., I was a stranger in a strange land. And Phil Blazer, Zichrono Livracha, he was there to gather me in. He took a notice of me and of my family. He had the Rolling Steins, that's the entire Stein family, on his show. And then he knew that I was involved with the Abba Yudaya, the Jews of Africa. And he was so interested in that and felt such compassion and a feeling for them that he asked, when Rabbi Gershom was here, for us to come into the studio and record. And then everybody got to hear the incredible music from Africa. And I've got to say that thank you, Mark, Rabbi Mark Blazer, his son, has retained that interest and brought it forward from generation to generation as we have done some wonderful things about the Abba Yudaya and the Jews of Zimbabwe and all over Africa. And he also has allowed my family to do a Friday night service, all original music in our backyard. And it's been really wonderful. We really miss you, Phil, and you will always live in our hearts. I'm wearing my African kippah, and my African talit was made for me in Africa. So here we go. Lechunu ranana. It is up to us to sing with great joy, and you have brought such joy into the world. And here we go with my son Justin.
Lechu neranna l'Adonai nariya letzor yishenu letzor yishenu lechu neranna l'Adonai nariya letzor yishenu letzor yishenu Nikat mafana betoda bizmirot nariya lo Nikat mafana betoda neranna la Adonai Naria Letzorishenu Lechu neranna la Adonai Naria Letzorishenu Letzorishenu 40 שנה אקוד בדור ואומר עם טועה לבבהם 40 שנה אקוד בדור ואומר עם טועה לבבהם נרננה לאדוני נריה לצור אישנו לצור How about you, Justin?
נרננה לאדוני נריה לצור אישנו
Thank you, Phil, for keeping this music alive.
የምታምር ሰው ናት እሷም ልጅ እኔም ልጅ ተጋቡ ይሉናል የተሰቀለው ማን ያወርድልናል ናኑ ናኑኔ ናኑ ናኑኔ ካንቻኔ ጉዳዬ ናኑ ናኑኔ ናኑ ናኑኔ ካንቻኔ ጉዳዬ
אמא קינקעתי אלייך בואי אליי בשובך יחזור שוב האור מעיניי לא גמור לא עוזב המגע בידייך שיבוא ויעיר לנשמע כל צחוקי
ננו ננונה ננו ננונה קנצ'לי גודאי ננו ננונה ננו ננונה קנצ'לי גודאי
אמא קינקעתי אלייך בואי אליי מול ירח מאיר את דרכך שוב אליי נפרסו ונמסו מול מגע של ידייך באוזנייך לוחש שואל מי זה קורא לך הלילה הקשיבי מי שב וקול אלייך אל חלונך מי שם נפשו שתהי מאושרת מי ישים יד ויבנה את ביתך מי ייתן חייו ישימה מתחתייך מי כעפר לרגלייך יחיה מי יאהבך עוד מכל אוהבייך מי מכל רוח רעה יצילך ממעמקים
ננו 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 קנצ'לי גודאי ננו 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 קנצ'לי גודאי
ממעמקים קראתי אלייך בואי אליי מול ירח מאיר את דרכך שוב אליי נפרסו ונמסו מול המגע של ידייך באוזנייך לוחש שואל מי זה קורא לך הלילה הקשיבי מי שב וקול אלייך אל חלונך מי שם נפשו שתהי מאושרת מי ישים יד ויבנה את ביתך מי ייתן חייו ישימה מתחתייך מי כעפר לרגלייך יחיה מי יאהבך עוד מכל אוהבייך מי מכל רוח רעה יצילך ממעמקים
לבונה 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 יני מלבו אתדבקי לבונה ጋበይ እኔን አትራቂኝ ሌቦኔ የመስረቁን ጥበብ እኔ ማውቀዋለው ሌቦኔ አቀርቅረሽ ያዥኝ እኔ ችለዋለው ሌቦኔ ሌቦ ሌቦ ስልሽ አትከፊም አንቺ ሌቦኔ አቀርቅረሽ ያዥኝ እኔን አስለምጂኝ ሌቦኔ አሆ
קורא לך הלילה, הקשיבי, מי שר בקול אלייך אל חלונך, מי שם נפשו שתהי מאושרת, מי ישים יד ויבנה את ביתך, ומי ייתן חייו ישימה מתחתייך, מי כעפר לרגלייך יחיה, מי יאהבך עוד מכל אוהבייך, מי מכל רוח רעה יצילך ממעמקים.
This one's for my dad. I love you, Dad. He wore this shirt up until his last days on earth. He was a beautiful soul to many, and my hero. I love you, Dad.
Pin the string to another coast until that wall fades into road. Without a rest or place to call your own, I would take that chance, you know. 'Cause you're mine, oh soul, you're mine, oh soul. You're my old soul, you're my old soul. If you turn off the city light, let the music fill the night. You know I'd leave it all behind. I would drift away with you, 'cause you're mine, old soul, you're my old soul. You're my old soul, you're my old soul. You're my old soul, you're my old soul. You're my old soul, you're my old soul.
From a beautiful place in the sky. Thank you.
Melissa Manchester is one of the greatest talents of American music. She is a multi-Grammy award-winning singer-songwriter. Melissa has been a great supporter of Jewish causes and lent her voice to JLTV for numerous programs. A great friend of Phil's, we are blessed to have Melissa Manchester.
Hi everybody, it's Melissa Manchester. I liked Phil Blazer, and I am honored to say that he liked me too. I always felt heard and respected whenever I was a guest on his show. And in recent months to read of his accomplishments, that he stood strong in the face of inexplicable violence. He was a man of valor, and I'm sure that upon ascending to heaven, God was pleased, most likely, that he brought so much of his own light. And so this song I would like to dedicate to sweet Phil and to his family.
Well, hello there, good old friend of mine. You've been reaching for yourself for such a long time. There's so much to say, no need to explain. Just an open door for you to come in from the rain. It's a long road when you're all alone, and someone like you will always choose the long way home. There's no right or wrong, I'm not here to blame. I just want to be the one to keep you from the rain, from the rain. And it looks like sunny skies now that I know you're alright, more than alright. Time has left us older but wiser. I know I am. I know I am. And it's good to know my best friend has come home again. You've come home again, 'cause I think of us like an old cliche, but it doesn't matter, it doesn't matter, 'cause I love you anyway. Coming from the rain, coming from the rain, coming from the rain.
This special musical tribute was put together with the friends of my father, Phil Blazer. We want to thank them for all of their help. We want to thank you for being a part of the JLTV family and remembering him as well. As we continue his legacy here at JLTV, we bring you some of the greatest programming from our country, from Israel, from around the Jewish world. Your generosity and support makes the work we do at JLTV possible. And some of the great interviews that my father, Phil Blazer, did over the years are in archives waiting to be brought to you. Here's an example of one of those interviews.
Well, welcome back to Main Street. Seems like we'll be talking actually to two people, Maim Bialik and Dr. Maim Bialik. Wow. Two people in one.
Yeah, exactly. Well, it's a lot more people in one, but yes.
A lot more than that, right?
I'm assuming, yes.
Yeah, I assume too little. Well, how many different personalities are wrapped up with
I don't know if it's a lot of different personalities, but there's definitely a lot of identities that I inhabit.
Well, first of all, the name.
Mm-hmm.
First name, Maim.
Yes.
We all, those of us who went and struggled through Hebrew school, like the Coen brothers' Serious Man,
right.
We know one of those words, Maim, to be
right.
water.
Yep.
Why water?
I was named for my great-grandmother, whose name was Mariam. And apparently it was an abbreviation that they made instead of Mariam, just Mayim. And it stuck. She was known as Babi Mayim, and my parents just thought it sounded like a pretty name to give me one name, a Hebrew name, instead of an English and a Hebrew. My middle name is Chaya. They used to call me a Wilde Chaya when I was a kid, which is a wild beast.
Right. That I'm sure you're not.
I guess as a kid I was, is what I'm told.
You don't remember?
No.
We'll talk about Judaism. We'll talk about neuroscience, which you got your PhD in. For those of us from the street, I'm not sure what neuroscience is. What is it?
Neuroscience is the study of the brain and nervous system. So your brain, your spinal cord, all the nerves of your body. It includes a lot of different kinds of fields. It's kind of a multidisciplinary study. I studied psychoneuroendocrinology. I looked at obsessive compulsive disorder in a population of adolescents with a genetic syndrome called Prader-Willi syndrome.
Wow,
that's what I did.
That's a mouthful. But when somebody says the expression, you have a lot of nerve, it's nothing to do.
Yeah, it's funny. Someone said that to me today. I hadn't thought of it as the brain nerves, but yes, it's funny.
You had a great break, I think. I'm not sure how it happened, but the movie you're in with Bette Midler must have been a moment in time that puts you to even where you are here, sitting and chatting with us.
Yeah, I mean, I started acting late by child actor standards. I started acting when I was 11 because I liked school plays. But within a year, I was cast in Beaches, and it came out the day of my bat mitzvah. I was on the cover of the LA Times calendar section. So the premiere was the week of my bat mitzvah. I was 13. And yeah, I got offers for television shows after that, and I did Blossom from the time I was 14 to 19.
Phil Blazer of blessed memory dedicated his life to sharing Jewish values, Jewish wisdom, and life with the world. That's why he founded JLTV. But before JLTV, he'd had a long run on television, starting in January of 1977. He interviewed thousands of people over all those years. I can remember him interviewing Dr. Spock himself, Leonard Nimoy. He did interviews with his good friend Ilan Ramon, who tragically died in the Columbia Space Shuttle disaster. He taped intimate conversations with prime ministers like Bibi Netanyahu and Yitzhak Rabin. Who besides Phil Blazer has had a heart-to-heart with baseball legend Sandy Koufax and 7-time Olympic gold medalist Mark Spitz? All of Phil's interviews, this whole collection, from his long, storied career in television, are priceless. And they're all on videotapes, as you can see. And they are deteriorating at a scary pace. That's why we ask you to make a gift to preserve this irreplaceable archive of Jewish wisdom and history by helping us convert the archive to searchable digital media. Then you will be able to watch and learn from Phil's nearly 40 years of broadcasting. Please help us make this dream a reality, so the Phil Blazer archives can be coming soon to a computer near you.